We got a millennial riot on the set right now. That's because a new report out showing that, well, a lot of them are failing to reach the 4 milestones of adulthood, with a minuscule 24% of 25 and 34-year-olds just crossing that threshold. And what is it? Well, getting married, having children, working, and living independently. Now, 1975, nearly twice that many hit the 4 milestones. So is this an indication of immaturity or just a sign of the economic times? Here to join us is Shelby, Holliday, Jillian Melchior, and Emily Jashinksy is back. Emily, the ladies on set are beating me up because I mean, you know, they're both, I think, 50% adult, okay? But this is a serious issue. Our economy can't grow until the millennials become full-fledged adults.
Yeah, a few things here. I'm a millennial, I'll say that, and I get hit a lot of times for, you know, hitting millennials, but I hit them when it's fair and I don't when it's not, and I think they actually deserve a little bit more credit on the Census Bureau report. What's interesting is they're not completely rejecting things like marriage and children, what we would all consider, you know, critical benchmarks of adulthood. They're actually delaying them, and I think you can really look to women's entry in the workforce as a big factor in that between 1975 and today. Another thing I think is interesting that we should be careful to note is that in studies that are like 18 to 34, when we're talking about those things, some kids are still in college, so it's kind of a tricky age group. But overall, I do think millennials are living different lives than we lived in 1975, but they may not turn out to be different by the time these kids are like 40.
Yeah, they're living different lives because they can, right? I mean, I don't know. There was a mindset back in the day, you know, in the 70s, your parents, so you had to leave. When you're 18, you got to figure it out. You could go to military, you can go to combine, and you can go to college, whatever it is. And it's not really the women going to the workforce. You know, according to Pew, it's the guys. 35% of them just can't get it going.
You know, it does blow my mind when I think about my father, who bought his own car when he was in high school, paid his way through college. Those are things a lot of us. I mean, I'll speak for myself. I didn't do that. I wasn't able to afford a car when I was in hit school. I do think the times have changed a little bit. Emily's right. It's a tricky age group, especially because the higher end of millennials graduated in a recession. That put a lot of pressure on them to make money. You can't have kids if you don't feel economically stable, or a lot of people don't. So I do think that pushed back some of these milestones. But the younger millennials are graduating in a great job market, and they have a very different mentality than the older millennials when it comes to accomplishing all of these things.
What about YOLO? You only live
YOLO is
all right?
big.
I mean, YOLO, in my mind, it's not about not being able to afford children, because I think Darwinism is like the poorest countries in the world have the most kids in the world, hoping that 1 or 2 of them make it through, maybe turn around and rescue the rest of the family. It's about being selfish right now, isn't it?
I don't think so. I think a lot of what they're spending on is experiences and relationships.
Tickets.
Well, that or travel, which I think makes them well-rounded. But if you look at this issue more broadly, I think higher education is really important to bring up, because we talk about our men's failure to launch. Well, they're going to colleges and they're sitting in seminars where they are told the things that are typically masculine. Going out, being a provider, being a strong man is toxic masculinity. You have students that are graduating with $27,000 of debt, and then there's studies coming out like the one last week from Duke and the New School claiming that colleges teaching financial literacy courses are actually racist, because that's presuming that it's not the system that's keeping people down. So I think with that background, it's not entirely shocking that these college students are graduating and are not having the basic skills that they need to excel.
You got to excuse me for a minute. Break out the world's smallest violin. Emily, listen, I get it. Things change. We evolve. But there is an economic undertone to all of this, because household formation is the centerpiece for eventually getting the economy going and all the things that come along with it.
Yeah, and in terms of the economic sort of impact from this study, I think what was most alarming is the impact that the new economy or new trends, sociological trends, are having on young men. So women's wages, according to the study, between the ages of 18 and 34, have really outpaced what's happened in men's wages since 1975. And that's because, honestly, for so many different reasons, men are discouraged in our education system. You know, it's sort of geared towards young girls. And men don't want to go to college. They're so exhausted on our education system by the time they're done with high school. They don't want to do it. And if they get to college, they may not be as motivated. I think that's a huge, huge problem, and we're going to continue to see the impacts of that.
I think it's another good thing. You know, we always talk about vocational education and bringing back those so-called goods-producing jobs. I'm really happy that they're starting to come back, because the implications between household formation, drug use, and just this sort of feeling that we just don't have as a nation that we had once before. I think it all could come back if we cure that. Ladies, thank you very much for playing along with that.